Good day, everyone. I am Lou Mendimguez, and my partner for this topic is Miss Jonalyn Montella, and our topic is all about the Gagne's conditions of learning. So, in the theory of Gagne, Gagne specified several different types of levels of learning. He states that there are different internal and external conditions that are needed for each type of learning. And his theory is called conditions of learning. Gagne also provide 9 instructions events that serve as the basis for the sequencing of instruction. So before we move on to Gagne's principles, let me show you the advanced organizers of Gagne's conditions of learning. So, in Gagne's condition of learning, Gagne's named 5 categories of learning and the 9 events instruction that would be discussed or reported by Miss Jonalyn Montella. So, in the 5 categories of learning, there are the verbal information, the intellectual skills, the cognitive strategies, the attitudes, and the motor skills. And in the 9 events of instruction, there are the event 1, gaining attention, event 2, informing the learning of the object, event 3, stimulating recall of prior learning, event 4, presenting the stimulus, event 5, providing learner guidance, event 6, eliciting performance, event 7, giving feedback, event 8, assessing performance, and event 9, enhancing retention and transfer. So Gagne's theory Gagne's theory deals with all aspects of learning. However, the focus of his theory is on intellectual skills. So when we say intellectual skills, this refers to the ways of thinking and the problem solving used by a person in a field. So the theory has been utilized to design instructions in all domains. So let's proceed to Gagne's principles. So number 1, different instruction is required for different learning. Gagne's theory asserts that there are several different types of levels of learning. And Gagne named 5 categories of learning: the verbal information, the intellectual skills, cognitive strategies, the motor skills, and the attitude. So let's proceed to the categories of learning. So number 1 is the verbal information. Verbal information is taught using different techniques to aid in memory recall. Using imaginary and other mnemonic strategies that help students make connections with the information and remember it more easily. As verbal information, it is often a lot of facts, places, and names. That use of learning strategies is meant to provide cues one's memories. Organizing, elaborating, and rehearsing are all ways to assess in learning declarative knowledge. So the number 2, the intellectual skills. So intellectual skills outline is to follow procedures to get things done. There are 5 different levels of learning within the intellectual skills category. These are the discrimination, the concrete concepts, the defined concept, the rules, and the higher order rules or the problem solving. So in the discrimination, it is the capacity to classify objects by one or more of their characteristics. Example of this is differentiate between octopus and squids, or alligators or crocodiles. These skills or methods should be repeatedly practiced. Next is the concrete concepts. These are the capacity to identify objects, based on one or more of their unique characteristics, such as the shape or color. Example of this are identifying tomatoes as a vegetable or fruit. This concept is more challenging than the discrimination because the learner must outline the main properties of the object. These skills can be practiced by presenting a variety of unrelated objects to the students and asking them the specific questions about each. Next is define concepts. So, define concepts is the capacity to demonstrate understanding about an abstract object or event. These skills requires the ability to explain more than the textbook definition of a concept. Example of this are the family or a community. Student would explain the idea in relation to their own experience. These skills can be practiced by asking student to outline all of the information they know about a concept and then have them draw conclusions between the ideas. They could also watch a video or a demonstration of the concept in question. So next is the rule. The rule is the capacity to make connection between concepts and objects. This may include how to play a game, how to division, or how to create a sentence that includes all necessary parts. These skills can be practiced by having each student recall the concepts that create the rule for each idea. The instruction should utilize all prompts and strategies in order to clearly share each rule with the students. Next are the problem solving or the higher order rules. So, this is the capacity to integrate multiple rules to find a solution. So, these skills can be practiced by reviewing information that is relevant to the problem. The instruction may also prompt them to discover new rules that may help them engage in a solution. So, next, the cognitive strategies. So, the cognitive strategies, there are a few strategies for learning as well as for thinking, which are also called metacognitive strategies. Learning strategies includes rehearsal, which involves copying and underlining information or reading it out loud. The next is the elaboration, where the students takes notes, paraphrases ideas, summarizes information, and answer questions, and organizing, which includes creating concept maps and arranging ideas in a meaningful way. These strategies help students control their everyday stress, manage their time effectively, and focus their attention on the task at hand. The next is the attitude. Attitude is found in the affective domain due to its unique state. It is often challenging to measure attitude as each individual must declare their own thoughts. Self reported questionnaires would be an example of how we can access the attitudes of learners. Although it is an internal state of mind, attitude can be observed in one's own personal choices or actions. So, there must be a conscious effort in order to change one's attitude, and they must be willing to do so. Using a mentor or role model has been an effective way of changing one's attitude. So, the student is first asked to remember a time where the negative attitudes applied. Then, a mentor would demonstrate or reenact the desired responses for the given situation. The mentor must be valued by the student and must also communicate the positive outcome achieved when the new attitude is applied. Reinforcement or a conditioned response can be used to promote the desired attitude. Next is the motor skills. So the motor skills is the only category in psychomotor domain. So the motor skills are physical action that are assessed in a complex performance such as skiing, dancing, and skateboarding, or even writing with a pencil. So these movements are evaluated and accuracy, smoothness, speed, or force. Motor skills are also known as psychomotor skills due to the coordination response required. Psychomotor skills have their own sub-skills which also known the part skills. So part skills are taught with clear instruction such as diagram, checklist, and even pictures to help the learners move in the right direction. It is important to note that part skills are best learned by continuous practice. So, number 2, learning hierarchies define that intellectual skills are to be learned in a sequence of instruction. So, Gagne suggests that learning tasks for intellectual skills can be organized in a hierarchy according to complexity, which the stimulus recognition, response generation, the procedure following, and the use of terminology, and etc. The primary significance of it is to identify the prerequisites that should be completed to facilitate learning at each level. Prerequisites are learning hierarchies provide a basis for the sequencing of instruction. So number 3, in the Gagne's principles, events of learning operate on the learner in ways that constitute the condition of learning. These events should satisfy or provide the necessary condition for learning and serve as the basis for designing instruction and selecting appropriate media. The theory includes 9 instruction events and the corresponding cognitive process that will be reported by Ms. Jonaling.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jonaling Montilla, and Ms. Limgis and I will be the reporter of Module 11 and our topic entitled Gagne's Condition of Learning. So Ms. Limgis will be the reporter of the categories of learning, and I will be reporting the 9 events of instruction or the 9 instructional events. So the 9 events of instruction can be divided into 3 segments. So what are they? So the 3 segments are the following. First segments is we have the preparation, and under the preparation we have gaining attention, informing learners of the objective, and stimulating recall of prior learning. In the second segment, we have the instruction and practice, or we call this as presentation. And under the instruction and practice or the presentation are the following: presenting the stimulus, providing learning guidance, exhilating performance, and providing feedback. And the last segments are the assessment and transfer. And assessment and transfer has two parts. The assessing performance, and we call this as application. And the second one is enhancing retention and transfer, and we call this as evaluation. So now let us start with the first events of instruction, which is gaining attention. So gaining attention or the reception, as we all know, that according to Gagne's 9 events of instruction, gaining attention is the first step taken into account when designing instructions. Okay? Such as gesturing or speaking it loudly, and we have to start our lesson with interesting questions. And also, we have to show them interesting videos, or it could be pictures, and also the instructional materials. Okay. So for examples, have learners pose question to be answered by other learners. Okay, you have to ask question from your students and answerable by another students. Okay? Or second examples, present a new and interesting situation that provokes curiosity. Okay, mag-present kag, let's say, videos nga maka-provoke sa mga curiosity sa imuhang mga learners. Okay, so let us move on to the next instruction events. Okay, so we have informing the learner of the objective, as you can see on the screen. So of course, after gaining their attention, inform the learners of the learning objective. Why? To help them understand what they will be learning during the session. Okay, and state what the learners will be able to accomplish during the session, and how they will be able to use the knowledge in the future. So this part of the preparation allows the learners to organize their thoughts on what they will learn to help place them in the proper mindset. For example, describe what they will be able to do at the completion of the session. Okay, imong i-explain nila kung unsay pwede nilang buhaton after sa discussion or sa session sa inyong topic. Or the second examples is describe the criteria for their standard performance. Okay, so this is very important for those learners nga ganahan makabalo kung unsay possible criteria after sa session nga or magpagama kag activity nga to achieve their good or better learning. And the third example is explain how their learning will benefit to them. Okay. Mangutanan man jud na sila og unsa man jud reason nganong need jud sila makabalo og unsay buot ipasabot ani. Unsa magamit ba jud ni nila. Okay. So let us move on to the third instruction of events, which is stimulating recall of prior learning. So what do you mean by this? So we have to help students make sense of new information by relating it to something that they already knew or something that they have already experienced, right? So for example, ask questions about their previous experiences. Okay, para makarelate sila kung unsa man jud buot nimo ipasabot. Second question, or the second examples, you have to ask your students about their understanding of the previous concepts. Okay, para ma-enhance ilahang knowledge, capabilities of, or ilang capabilities of learning. Or the third examples, relate previous course information to the current topic. Okay, mas better jud kung ang inyong previous concept imo siyang i-relate sa inyong current topic so that ma-continuous japon ilahang learning. Okay. So let us move on to the fourth instruction of events. Okay, we have presenting the stimulus. Okay, presenting the stimulus. So this part is the presentation part. Okay, presenting the stimulus or the selective perception. So what do you mean by this? Presenting stimulus is to present the learners. You have to present the learners with new information using the learning strategies to provide them an effective and efficient instruction for them to be able to understand or to use it in their learning field. And you have to organize and chunk content in a meaningful way. Bahalag small or gamay ra kayo imong content, as long as you present it in a creative way, makasabot na sila. For example, use a variety of texts, graphics, it could be figure and pictures or sounds kay mas dali makarelate ang mga learners if tagaan nimo sila og mga interesting nga pictures, videos, or sounds nga pwede nila magamit sa ilahang mga sa ilahang ma-learn, something like that. And the second examples is pwede sad ka mo gamit og, let's say, visual cues, or it could be verbal instruction. Okay, kay every learner's manggod, we have a different perspective, and we have also different styles of learning, and we have a different preferences. So that's why dili jud nato sila ma-considered as one, kay lahi-lahi man ta og perspective. Okay, so let us move on to the next event of instruction, which is providing learning guidance. This is also part of the presentation. Okay, so we call this as systematic encoding. So this part offer the learners guidance by providing on how to learn the skills that we have to give. We have to give an examples and advice of strategies, like para nga makasabot jud sila sa content sa imuhang topic. And also, provide the learning guidance for them to remember what they are learning. Okay, so that is very important for those learners nga ganahan jud makabalo about ana. So in other words, we really need to help learners on how to learn. For examples, tagaan nimo sila og concept mapping, or pagamon nimo sila concept mapping to improve their knowledge, their capabilities on how to make a concept mapping. Or let's say role playing to express their emotions, their thoughts, and it could be their ideas. And graphics will do also in providing learner guidance. Okay, so let us move on to the next event of instruction, which is the eliciting performance. Okay, so this is we call as responding. So unsa gud ay ni siya ipasabot ani. So this part, let the learner do something with the newly acquired behaviors, their skills, or their knowledge. Okay, we have to provide them with practice activities. Okay, to activate the learning process. So this part of the presentation, the new information, learners to internalize, okay, like such as their skills, their understanding, and their knowledge to ensure their correct understanding of the concept. Okay, para jud mas ma-elaborate gud nila pag-ayo. For examples, ask the learners to demonstrate based on what they understand. So dira nimo masukod jud ilahang kuan kung naminaw ba jud sila nimo, nakasabot ba jud sila sa imong gi-discuss, kung maka-demonstrate sila, so meaning na-achieve nimo ang objective nga gina-aim nimo diri nga topic or concept. Or another example, ask a question to learners so that they can show their knowledge and share their ideas too. Dapat open ta nga mo accept sa ilahang mga ideas kay makatabang sad na siya nato. Or role playing exercises. Okay. So diri pod nga part pwede po siya magamit kay para diri man jud nila mas ma-express through role playing ang ilahang mga excitement or understanding about the topic. Okay, let us move on to the giving feedback or the reinforcement. Okay, so this part is to provide immediate feedback of learners' performance to assess and facilitate learning. Okay, so this part also is to reinforce any important point. Okay, so this stage will help those learners to the correct answer and gives us guidance. Okay, so mahatagan na to sila guidance para sa mga corrections and mga positive feedback nga pwede na to mahatag nila, or kanang we can also give suggestion. Okay, for examples, they have activity works, and we as a teachers, we need to give each feedback to them for them to know what kung unsa jud kanang ilahang work, it's na-accomplish ba nila ang objective nga kailangan i-aim ana nga work, or need pa jud nila i-improve o gamay ilahang performance. Like for example, be positive in terms of giving feedback. Okay, bawal negative kay ngano. If you are positive in terms of giving feedback, possible nga ma-motivate nimo ang students or ang mga learners. Be objective. Okay, dapat is direct to the point. Dili na kinahanglan nga taas na kayo kag feedback or comments, as long as direct to the point, short but direct to the point, ma-appreciate na nila. Or let's say gave a concise feedback. Okay, so dili na kinahanglan nga muhatag pa kag usa ka paragraph nga feedback for them to know, kundi small or concise feedback will do as long as makasabot sila. Okay, and provides the students with suggestion. Okay, so dapat open po ta sa mga suggestion nga pwede nato i-add sa students to be able to improve their performance. Okay, so let us move on to number 8. We have assessing performance. So assessing performance, we call this application. Okay, this part is the application part. In order to evaluate the effectiveness of the learners to determine if they expected learning outcomes has been achieved. So diri na nimo makita kung ang katong mga learning objectives, learning outcomes nga dapat i-aim na to ani nga topic is na-achieve bagyud nila. So unsa may buhaton sa teachers? Okay. So teachers will give the students it could be, for example, oral recitation. Okay. So muhatag kag oral recitation, ana any answer, no wrong answer, you have to accept their ideas, pang ilang mga perception, perspective, mga ingon ana. Or pwede pod ka muhatag og written exams, quizzes, or it could be activities. Okay. So let us move on to the 9th event of instruction. Okay, the enhancing retention and transfer. Unsa man jud ni siya ibot ipasabot ani, or this is we call as generalization. Okay, this part is the evaluation part. Okay, so give the learners resources that enhance retention and transfer of knowledge so that they are able to internalize the new knowledge and of course to enhance their skills or their expertise. Okay. Repeated, it could be practicing, and effective feedback. Okay. This is the best way to ensure that your learners retain information and use it effectively. Okay, so for example, let your students summarize the content. Okay, sa evaluation part, diri na jud nimo makita kung unsay abilidad sa imuhang mga learners. Okay, so kung naminaw jud sila, kung nakasabot jud sila sa imuhang lesson, then let them summarize the content. Okay, pagamon nimo silag mga essay, or it could be pagamon nimo silag concept mapping, pwede pod og mag-create silag outline. Okay, it's up to the teacher na kung unsay iyang ipagama as long as naa siya evaluation. Okay, so I think that would be all about my topic, and thank you very much for listening, and please keep safe everyone, and God bless us all.